Hey, good morning. This is Joe from Citrus County Porch Life, bringing you the AA word of the day for January 22nd, 2025. And the word for today is let's keep it simple. A few hours later, I took my leave of Dr. Bob. The wonderful old broad smile was on his face as he said almost jokingly, "Remember, Bill, let's not louse this thing up. Let's keep it simple." I turned away, unable to say a word. That was the last time I ever saw him. And here's the daily reflections commentary. After years of sobriety, I occasionally ask myself, can it be this simple then? At meetings, I see former cynics and skeptics who have walked the AA path out of hell by packaging their lives without alcohol into 24-hour segments, during which they practice a few principles to the best of their individual abilities. And then I know again, while it isn't always easy, if I keep it simple, it works. One of the signs that kind of hit me the wrong way when I first saw it was a big sign right near where the secretary sat, KISS. I looked, I said, what does that mean? I'm from the distance, I couldn't even see what it meant. So I asked someone, what does that mean? And they said it means keep it simple, stupid. And I thought to myself, why are they calling us all stupid? We're stupid. How are we ever going to understand a program? That sign itself is stupid. And that's how I approach things, kind of adversarially. But it, that's very apropos. Keep it simple. Don't complicate things. And part of one of the greatest tools for me is being able to segment things like this says 24-hour segment. But really, in the beginning, when you're craving a drink, maybe it's an hour segment, maybe it's a half-hour segment. Maybe you say to yourself, this is what I used to do. I'm going to put on a record and I'm going to listen to the first side. And when the record's on the first side, usually about 20 minutes, I'm not going to have a beer. And that side would get done. And I'd flip it over, put the second side on, and I'd say the same thing. While this music is playing, I'm not going to have a beer. And that's kind of when I went from activity to activity to activity during those first few weeks when the urge to drink was there, but decreasing, at least for me. Whatever I did. Well, this program's a half-hour comedy. I'm not going to have a beer while this is on. Then I watch another program an hour. I think I can go an hour. And before I knew it, I used up a day and I hadn't drank. Uh, so that's how I made it less complicated. And I had kind of used that in all my academic training because even though I did very well, I used to get overwhelmed by the amount of things that I had to do. So I break it down into little tasks. Like we were assigned at the end of a chapter in a math book, there'd be 30 questions, odd questions, even questions. So we'd be assigned the even questions, and the odd ones had answers. So it would be, I'd be out Friday and back to school Saturday, even the university, when I was in the university. And I'd say, well, this afternoon I'm going to do 5. Then I'll do 5 tonight. And that'll get me almost to the halfway point. And that's how I did it, rather than saying, oh, I got to work on this till I get it all done and not do anything else. And so, but I must say, my mathematical mind, and I still have that mindset today, tries to complicate things because I do like complicated things. But I've mentioned before, like one year I didn't pay my taxes. I didn't have any taxes to pay. I didn't file a return early. And I just couldn't see the reason why, if the state owed me 5 cents, why I had to go through all the problem of filling out a form. Them in those days, you didn't get direct deposit. Them mailing me a check, me having to go to the bank and deposit a 5 cent check, and the bank having to, go through their accounts reconciliation and put it in my account. It just seemed like absolutely nuts to me. And so and so by not doing that, I set in motion a whole set of things that I had to deal with, and my life became unmanageable. I got this lady from the tax office in Rhode Island calling my house. And then every time the phone rang, I thought, that's her, and I didn't answer it. And I didn't have an answering machine in those days, so I wasn't absolutely sure who was calling. And so this was all of my own doing. So this is how how I made my life crazy and unmanageable. So I'm getting the anxiety about this. What are they going to do? They wouldn't arrest me, would they, for not doing this? And it felt so good when I finally did it. And so, but uh, Bill is talking here. Alcoholics Anonymous comes of age. Now, Bill Wilson was born in 1895, and he lived to 1971, and he got to see how very big Alcoholics Anonymous had come. I think it is this book where it shows them an AA convention. There's usually a yearly convention. In Rhode Island, there was a state convention in Newport. Um, Florida is a much bigger state. I could drive from my house to Newport. Rhode Island's so small, but Florida's a big state. I don't know what they do for the convention. He was born in 1895, died in 1971, and I think the 1970 convention was his last. But you can see the auditorium. I mean, when I say auditorium, I mean like convention auditorium, absolutely filled with people. Now, he was from Vermont, Bill W. Dr. Bob was from Akron, Ohio, where they had a hospital where they treated alcoholics. And he was born in 1879 and died in 1950. Bill W. was a World War I veteran. Also had something to do with Mexico, some battle. And so, but Dr. Bob died 21 years before Bill W. And so they were the two great guys, the ones that finally figured out you were hopeless. You were considered hopeless if you were an alcoholic in those days. So you just went in the hospital and you died. Liver failure. Like my grandfather died of esophageal varices that's bleeding out through your mouth. And there's only one treatment back then when my grandfather died in 1954, and that was to stick a tube of cold water down, hoping to seal some of the bleeding spots, but it was like about 80% fatal. My grandfather died of that. And so this person that's doing the commentary, she's the one that talks, he or she talks about these 24-hour segments during which they practice the principles to the best of their abilities. And that's all that you can do is practice it to the best of your ability. And the takeaway, while it isn't always easy, if I keep it simple, it works. And I found that out. I found that to be very true for me. And God's blessed me with many years of sobriety, and I'm sure many extra years of life. All my younger brothers that died of addiction, they're younger than me. They're gone, and I'm still here, thank God, in relatively good health. You can never tell when God calls you, but I have plans for the future. I love doing this, so I'm going to continue to do it as long as I can possibly do it. So, have a safe and sober day, and we will see you tomorrow.